Ira blinked. The sound of her brother's voice pulled her out of the storm inside her head. Ira, are you listening? Huh. She turned slowly, strands of her hair brushing against her cheek as she looked at Rishab. The early morning sun was spilling softly through the windshield, golden light cutting across the moving car, as the roads toward Jaisalmer stretched endlessly ahead. Desert winds brushed past the windows, while old Rajasthani songs played faintly on the radio, too soft to truly hear, yet enough to fill the silence between them. Rishab glanced at her again from the driver's seat. Concern was written all over his face. Concern for his little sister. The kind only an elder brother carries when he knows his sister is hurting, but is waiting patiently for her to speak first. Ira quickly smiled and shook her head lightly. No, I was listening, but the smile never reached her eyes. And Rishab noticed. Of course he did. He had spent his whole life reading the silence of the Sharma sisters. Especially Ira. Isha screamed when she was upset. Ira smiled. That was always the dangerous part. Rishab looked at her for another long second before returning his gaze to the road. His fingers tightened slightly on the steering wheel. Then he spoke again. This time, his voice was serious. Steady, yet unbearably gentle. You know I'm always here for you and Isha, right? Ira's lashes lowered instantly. And if you do not wish to marry that man, his jaw clenched faintly before he continued, just tell me. There was no hesitation in his voice. No fear. Not even while talking about one of the most powerful men in the country. CM or not, he said firmly, I will never let him marry you against your will. Something in Ira's chest cracked softly at those words. Because after everything, after all the confusion and emotional chaos Aariv brought into her life, Rishab's love still felt simple. Safe. Certain. Her throat tightened painfully. She looked outside the window quickly before he could see the tears gathering in her eyes. The desert blurred faintly before her vision. Bye, she whispered softly. Rishab immediately glanced at her again, and the moment he saw the tears she was trying so hard to hide, his expression changed completely. His anger toward Aariv returned instantly. Sharp. Protective. What did he do? He asked quietly. Too quietly. The kind of quiet that came before violence. Ira shook her head immediately. No, it's not. Don't defend him. His tone hardened. He left you alone, Ira. The memory flashed before both of them instantly. Her waiting. Her tears. Her broken state inside that hotel room. Rishab's grip on the steering wheel tightened so hard his knuckles turned white. I saw you yesterday, he said, voice rough now. Do you even know what that did to me? Ira's lips trembled, because she did know. She had seen it in his eyes, that helpless rage. The pain of watching his little sister cry because of another man. I felt like killing him. The confession came flatly. Honestly. And for the first time, Ira realized he truly meant it. Silence filled the car again. Heavy. Emotional. Then softly. Almost like she was trying to convince herself more than him, Ira whispered. He's not a bad person, I don't know. Rishab laughed once, a humorless sound. That's the problem, he muttered. Men like him are worse. Ira turned toward him slowly. Rishab kept his eyes on the road as he spoke. Bad men hurt people openly. A pause. But powerful men, his jaw tightened. They make you love them first, and then teach you how much pain you can survive. Ira's breath caught, because somewhere deep inside, a part of her feared he was right. It had been a week since Ira returned from Jaipur, and something had changed. Everyone noticed it. Especially Isha. And Varsha. At first, it was small things. The way Ira stopped humming while making tea in the kitchen. The way she no longer danced around the house, absent-mindedly, while practicing steps. The way her laughter had become softer now, careful, almost measured. Like someone who had suddenly become conscious of how much space she occupied in the world. But the most noticeable thing, she stopped taking his name. Aariv Agnivansh, once a name that brought nervous blushes to her cheeks and silent confusion to her eyes, had now become something forbidden. Untouched. Avoided. Like speaking about him aloud would reopen wounds she was trying desperately to stitch shut inside herself. And Varsha noticed everything. Of course she did. She had grown up with Ira. She knew every version of her smile. Which ones were real? Which ones were just show for the people? And which ones were hiding pain? That afternoon, Varsha had finally cornered her in the dance arena after class. The water pond beside the arena in the fort area reflected the two girls standing across from each other, soft sunlight entering through the windows, while the faint smell of sandalwood incense lingered in the room. Ira was busy folding dupattas after class ended, or at least pretending to, because the moment Varsha locked the studio door behind her, Ira already knew. This conversation was coming. Varsha folded her arms across her chest, her expression serious. What happened in Jaipur? Ira's fingers paused for the briefest second before continuing to fold the fabric neatly. Nothing happened. Don't lie to me. The sharpness in Varsha's voice finally made Ira look up. Varsha stepped closer immediately. I saw the news clips, she said quietly now. Everyone did. Ira's stomach tightened. And then came the part she had been avoiding all week. CM Sir arrived with his entire team. Varsha continued carefully, watching Ira's face closely. And Niharika was standing beside him. The name alone felt enough to drain color from Ira's face. Varsha noticed instantly. There were talks everywhere, Ira, she whispered softly. People noticed here in town. She kept studying her friend for any reaction. Ira quickly looked away. Her fingers tightened around the dupatta in her hand. She was standing where you were supposed to stand, beside him. That sentence hurt more than Varsha realized. Because Ira had thought the same thing that night. Over. And over. And over again. Varsha moved closer, her voice softening. You not showing up at the party. Then, suddenly, Rishab Bai took you home the next morning when you were supposed to be at your in-law's place for wedding shopping. Her brows furrowed with worry. What happened there? Ira forced a small smile onto her lips. A weak one. I wasn't feeling well, she lied quietly. That's why I didn't go. Varsha stared at her in disbelief, because the lie was bad. Too bad. You expect me to believe that? She asked softly. Ira lowered her eyes again. And that scared Varsha more than tears would have, because Ira usually defended people she loved, even when hurt. But now, she simply stayed silent, like she didn't even have the energy left to defend him anymore. Varsha's expression softened immediately. Uru! Her voice broke slightly with concern. What did he do? Ira inhaled sharply. The memories came rushing back instantly. The waiting. The humiliation. The fear. His hands gripping her hair. His dark eyes promised danger for her. His obsession. His indifference. His closeness. His cruelty. Her chest tightened painfully. And yet, despite everything, her heart still reacted at the thought of him. That was the worst part. I don't want to talk about him, Ira whispered finally, very softly, but there was something in her voice that made Varsha go still. Pain. Real pain. Varsha looked at her best friend carefully, at the tiredness hidden behind her calm face, at the way she kept twisting the edge of the dupatta around her fingers anxiously, at the silence she wore now like armor. And suddenly, Varsha understood. Something had happened in Jaipur that changed Ira deeply. Something emotional enough that even now she could not put it into words. Varsha stepped forward quietly and hugged her tightly. Ira froze for a second. Then slowly, very slowly, she melted into the embrace. And that alone told Varsha how broken she truly was. Because Ira Sharma only leaned on people when she was no longer strong enough to stand alone. Ira was in her room. Soft evening sunlight filtered through the white curtains, painting the room in shades of gold and warmth. Her room smelled faintly of books, mogra flowers, and sandalwood, peaceful, quiet, entirely her. Her dupatta lay carelessly beside the bed, while she herself was stretched out on the soft carpet, laying flat on her stomach with a thick novel open before her. Or at least, pretending to read it, because her eyes had been stuck on the same page for the last 10 minutes. Her long curls spilled around her like a dark river against the cream carpet, soft waves brushing against her bare arms and waist. The loose powder blue kurti she wore made her fair skin glow delicately under the fatting sunlight, while the tiny silver anklet around her feet chimed softly every time she moved absent-mindedly. There was something painfully simple about her beauty. No effort, no loudness, just softness. The kind people noticed quietly and remembered for a long time. Her blue-gray eyes moved across the page again, but the words refused to settle in her mind, because every silence lately somehow ended with him. Those eyes, that voice, that terrifying closeness. Her fingers tightened faintly over the edge of the page. Just then, the bedroom door burst open loudly. Ira startled violently, immediately pushing herself up on her elbows. She looked toward the door in shock, only to find Isha stumbling inside the room dramatically, breathing like she had run a marathon. Her hair was messy, her cheeks red, and one slipper was half falling from her foot while she clutched the door dramatically for support. Huff, oh my God. Ira blinked slowly. Then she calmly closed her book. Isha, she said patiently, sitting up properly now, first breathe. But Isha pointed at her dramatically instead, still trying to fill her lungs. Next week is your. She bent slightly, putting both hands on her knees while gasping exaggeratedly. Ira raised an eyebrow. Slow down first, she said calmly again, trying not to laugh at her sister's state. Then tell me. Isha inhaled deeply. Once. Twice. Then suddenly straightened and yelled. Your wedding date is moved to next week on 1st June. Silence. Complete silence. The words hit the room heavily. Ira's fingers froze over the book in her lap. The soft chiming of her anklet stopped. Even the air felt still suddenly. Isha, still dramatic as ever, immediately rushed toward her bed and dropped onto it face first before groaning into the pillow. Dadu Sa and Papa are downstairs discussing dates with Pandit Jai, she mumbled dramatically. And Daddy Sa already started planning jewelry and guest lists like some royal war strategy. But Ira barely heard her. Wedding date. The words echoed strangely inside her chest. Not happiness. Not excitement. Just heaviness. A strange tightness settled in her stomach, because suddenly everything felt real again. Not Jaipur. Not fights. Not emotions. Not stolen moments. Marriage. A lifetime. Aariv. Her fingers slowly closed over the book until the pages bent slightly beneath her grip. Isha finally looked up from the pillow and frowned immediately, seeing her sister's expression. The excitement on her face faded. Uro. Ira blinked quickly and forced a small smile, but it looked fragile. Too fragile. And Isha noticed instantly, because, unlike the rest of the world, Isha knew her sister's silences too well. Just then, her phone chimed softly beside the book, such a small sound. Yet Ira's entire body stilled instantly. Her fingers twitched faintly. Isha was still talking dramatically about wedding chaos downstairs, completely unaware of the sudden shift in her sister. But Ira could already feel it, that strange tightening in her chest, that awareness, like her heart somehow recognized him before her mind even could. Slowly, almost hesitantly, she picked up the phone lying beside the book, and the moment her eyes fell on the screen, her breath caught. Hukum. Just one word. One name, but somehow it carried the weight of a storm. Isha immediately noticed the change in her expression. Her narrowed eyes dropped suspiciously to the phone. "Oh ho," she said slowly, sitting up straighter on the bed. "Who is it?" Ira immediately locked the screen. Too quickly. Which made Isha gasp dramatically. "Oh my God!" She pointed at her accusingly, her tone mischievous. "It is him." "Isha." No, wait." Isha crawled across the bed excitedly. "You were sad for one whole week, and now suddenly your face changed after seeing one message." "I did not change my face," Ira said, looking with a straight face. "You absolutely did." Ira tried placing the phone aside calmly, but the slight tremble in her fingers betrayed her completely. Because the truth was, even after everything, his messages still affected her, and she hated that. Isha narrowed her eyes mischievously. What did CM Saab send? Ira swallowed softly. Then, finally, against her better judgment, she unlocked the screen again. The message was painfully short. Cold. Completely like him. "Be ready tomorrow evening. We are going somewhere." No greeting. No explanation. No asking. Just certainty. Like he already knew she would come. Ira stared at the screen for a long moment, and annoyingly, her heart started beating faster. Again. Isha practically threw herself beside her, trying to peek at the phone. "Show me." "No." Ira immediately turned the screen away, cheeks warming slightly. Isha gasped dramatically again. "You are blushing." "I am not." "You are." Isha clutched her own chest theatrically. "Hi Bhagwan, our quiet Ira is hiding things now." But Ira barely heard her teasing, because her eyes were still fixed on those words. "Be ready tomorrow evening." There was no apology from his side, or softness in the way he sent the message, and that made her somewhat afraid of him after what happened between them in the hotel suite. Maybe he is trying to change things between them now, that the date of marriage is pushed forward. But why? And yet, the mere thought of seeing him tomorrow made that dangerous little ache inside her chest return again. Confusing. Unwanted. Alive. Her thumb hovered uncertainly over the keyboard. Reply. Ignore him. Ask where. Ask why. Before she could decide, another message appeared. And little bird. Ira's breath stopped. Her heart instantly betrayed her again. Then the final message came. "Don't make me come upstairs to get you this time." The night over the fort was hauntingly beautiful. Cold desert wind brushed against the ancient sandstone walls, carrying silence so deep it almost felt alive. Far away, the city lights flickered faintly beneath the hill, but here, at the back end of the fort, there was nothing, just endless desert stretching into darkness, and a sky overflowing with stars. She stood near one of the massive stone pillars, her dupatta fluttering softly around her arms as nervous fingers clutched the fabric tightly. The place was isolated. Too isolated. No sound except the wind, and her heartbeat. Vast. Uneasy. A strange feeling sat heavily in her chest ever since that message came asking her to meet here. Alone. A sudden sound of footsteps echoed behind her. Slow. Measured. Nearer. Her breath hitched instantly. She turned slightly, but the darkness concealed the approaching figure completely. Only the sound remained. Closer. Closer. Her grip on her dupatta tightened painfully. "Why did you call me here?" she asked softly. Her voice came out smaller than intended. Almost swallowed by the night itself, the footsteps stopped. Silence followed. Heavy. Dangerous. The kind of silence that made the skin crawl with anticipation. Then, a shadow shifted near the pillar across from her. Tall. Still. Watching. The wind blew harder suddenly, making the torches along the walls flicker violently for a second before settling again. But the face remained hidden. Only a low voice finally broke through the darkness. "You came."